How this one rule could fix F1's biggest problems. So we thought we would do something quite exciting, quite different today, where we look into one rule that could help Formula One. I've thought of one, Tommy's thought of one, and you at home have also thought of one and sent it in. Very exciting, eh, Tommy? Are we going to fix Formula One today?
We are. We're going to fix it, and then we're going to send this video straight to the FIA, and they're definitely going to read it and watch it.
Let's get into my first suggestion then, shall we? I'll begin. I will fix Formula One by bringing a bigger step in performance between tyre compounds. I feel as though right now Pirelli have gone the opposite way. We've had moments in time, moments in Formula One where we've had really high degradation. We've had that big tyre differential, not necessarily the steps between compounds, but the fact that some people may have been, or some drivers may have been on worn soft tyres, others on much fresher mediums, for example. And that level of degradation caused a massive pace gap. And I think it almost went a little bit too far the other way when we had that horrendous tyre degradation. I remember Canada, I can't remember what year, you'll probably tell me, 2011, 2012, something like that, where all of that, the marbles on the outside of the racing line were ridiculous. And I think there was a last lap battle as well, where someone went for a move and there were so many marbles everywhere, they were just literally falling off the track.
Yeah, Canada 2010 was the race that it's funny that you say was terrible, because that's the race they watched and went, this is what Formula One needs. And then Pirelli came in and made those degrading tyres, which, to be fair, we had a banging season when they introduced them, even if it was a bit crazy. But I loved it personally.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was crazy. I think that the way in which they go about it in maybe a slightly less manufactured way, and having these drivers as basically sitting ducks, is having it so they have control of their car, because the tyres aren't degrading as much, but there is a bigger step between the softs, the mediums, and the hards, because then we never see the softs really, apart from the McLarens trying it in Miami and then quickly realising, what have we done? Having soft tyres as a genuine option for a lot of tracks, or all three always as an option. I know it would be very difficult to make sure every single track there's three tyres that are all viable, but that is what I think would help. If the soft is a second and a half a lap quicker than the mediums, and the mediums are another second and a half lap quicker than the hards, but then I guess then you have to take into account there does need to be a level of degradation there, because otherwise everyone will just go on the softs and the mediums. Tommy, what do you think of this suggestion?
I do like it. I think it's a massive problem for me that I don't necessarily think we should go completely hardcore 2012, tyres fall apart in 3 laps and we get 5 pit stops, however crazy and exciting that was for half a season before they kind of changed it. I think it's a big problem that we've had 2 races in a row where the hard tyres just don't degrade at all. And not only that, you get a situation where you don't really need to pit. It's only because there's a mandatory stop that you actually pit, because otherwise people would probably just start on the hard tyres, because we saw Verstappen just being able to lap really quickly. And the performance wasn't dropping off.
That's very true. And one stops, in my opinion, are killing the sport in a lot of ways, because we need that strategy variation in order for boring races to perhaps have some life to them. And this is where perhaps this next suggestion comes in. And this is from O Quilt. 3 mandatory compounds to be used during the race would have been Tommy's, but lots of people said it. So yes, this would have been Tommy's suggestion, but
100%.
Everyone said it, so we were like, hey, we'll give it to the fans. And maybe that's where you tie in my suggestion and O'Quilt's, where you have to use all 3. There will be stages in the race where drivers will be a lot quicker than other cars around them. We're going to see more overtaking. Having that, I'm sure there will still be ways in which teams go around it, that one particular strategy will be quicker than others, but that's the job of Pirelli to make sure that that isn't the case. And we do genuinely see some drivers starting on softs, some drivers starting on hards and going, right, well, I'm going to have my quick part of the race now and try and fend off the cars later. It makes sense.
I will shout this from the rooftops forever, because this one is like such an easy way of just making racing more exciting. It's not too ridiculous and silly that it makes it artificial, because we're already using different compound of tires and they already exist 3 compounds of tyres exist, so just use them in the race. The most interesting part of the race is the strategy element and the fact that, and I think this is the problem that's made sprint so boring and something we've complained about so much, is one stint is not particularly interesting, but as soon as you get a pit stop, that's the exciting moment of the race. And what's happened in the last 2 races is there's only one stop. And I think actually Baku was a perfect example of why it was so dull, was because the safety car came out right in the middle. Everyone could just do their one mandatory pit stop and it was over. Whereas if you had this, there's still something there. There's another moment where it can change again.
But teams such as Ferrari and other sort of backmarket teams struggle with tyre wear. Now, if you have 3 mandatory compounds to be used, that element of it actually is taken out of it somewhat, where you might see the Ferrari, for example, stick with the Red Bulls for the first 15 laps on mediums, and then the really hard tyre wear kicks in, like it did in Baku, for example. With 3 mandatory compounds, the moment that hits, Ferrari might just box Leclerc, put him on softs for a bit, get track position, whilst the Red Bulls are using their better tyre wear for a bit longer to then go for a better stint and use the hards for a lesser time towards the end of the race. There's all that element of strategy that I think would only benefit Formula One.
The positions would be changing all the time and there'd be a lot to like enjoy and understand. So yeah, this one, get it done, FIA.
Tommy, what is your one suggestion that isn't the 3 mandatory compounds? And it's another one which I think will cause all kinds of interesting debate, including Frank, who seems to be running around the floor.
Yes. This is a controversial one, but I have gone for spec cars. Now, there's quite a lot of suggestions about this, and a lot of people did say it. Then there were also counter arguments saying it's not Formula One if it's spec cars. And I get both. Like, I understand this is not for everyone. This is my choice, my opinion. And
it's mine.
It's my opinion. I understand that for Formula One, that engineering side is something that people love, and that is the sport to them. And I'll be honest, like, that's not a side to the sport that I've ever been that particularly interested in. I would much rather watch exciting racing. And if you have, even if it's not spec cars, if it's more spec parts or something like that, we'll get closer racing. And I think the backlash, I think the whole off season, if this got implemented, I don't think it will maybe not ever happen. It's unrealistic, but it gets implemented, there'd be a huge backlash on social media. And then as soon as the first race hits and the entire grid is separated by about a second.
And Logie Sarge wins the race.
But there's so many, like, the biggest problem with Formula One always has been that one team dominates and people complain about it. And this just covers that. IndyCar is a perfect example.
I am also of the same opinion that I think spec cars, as much as it is unrealistic, could actually be something that the majority would love. I think, I'm going to put myself on a whim here, if you did a poll at a race, Silverstone, for example, whatever, 300,000 people there, you did a poll that says, choose one thing, closer racing, or the teams get to build whatever the car they want and they can go as fast as they want and there could be a massive field spread. I think 90% are picking closer racing.
100%.
At least.
100.
At least.
Last race in Miami, Pierre Gasly might have had the greatest, or like Alex Albon or someone, might have had the greatest drive of their entire life. And we don't know because the cars are so different that we don't have a clue. Just to convince anyone that's on the fence. The last 10 seasons of Formula One, the championship has gone down to the wire 3 times. And only once between 2 different cars. Guess how many times in the last 10 years IndyCar's gone down to the final race?
8.
10. Last year, IndyCar Championship went down to the wire. 5 drivers could win the title in the final race, and it was the 17th consecutive season where the championship's gone down to the last race.
Wow.
Who doesn't want that?
Next up is from Greg Stinson _ points all the way down to last so that there is fighting all the way to the end, all over the track. I'm not against this too much. I think that going all the way down to last, potentially not, but I think more points on offer. So, I mean, Alex Albon's already said for the sprint shootout, the top 8 is absolutely ridiculous. perhaps top 15. I don't know. I don't know my exact benchmark here, but I like the fact that giving most drivers something to play for would be good. Maybe extending it past 10, I wouldn't be against.
I think this argument comes in even more now we've got the top 8 drivers in those top 4 teams, where there's not a lot of point. If you actually look at the championship table, it's really close between the bottom guys, because there's no real points on offer. The most you can really get is for 9th in a normal race. So I think this way would give a better indication of who's actually good. And maybe that's just because I'm looking at Yuki Tsunoda in the championship table, thinking he should be about 10th in the championship table, but actually he's like 17th or something.
Yeah.
But that is fair to have an indication of where you actually are in the championship, right? Like,
yeah, because what does that realistically change? If there was points all the way down to last or points to 15th, it doesn't really change the landscape too much.
No, it also keeps the championship closer as well. Like that's something that IndyCar do. They give points all the way down the field, and that's part of the reason why the championship goes down to the wire, because it just keeps it close. So yeah, I'm all for it. I think it is probably, if we get another year of like bulletproof reliability, I do think genuinely that they might actually consider this.
Yeah, I haven't really given it too much thought, to be honest. So Greg, that is a very good point. Thank you for your suggestion. And I think we are in unanimous decision that we think that it would be a good way in some form. Next one comes from Vamsi_Fizzy. Introduce refueling. What do you think, Tommy?
Nope. Next. I do like the strategy element, but it always promoted overtaking in the pits. The only thing I'd be for refueling coming back is if it made the cars so much lighter and smaller.
I just don't think they will, just purely from a health and safety point of view as well. There was a few moments over the years where fuel hoses still attached to the car, or the entire pit lane going up in flames. Like there's been plenty of moments that the FIA, I don't think, would ever go, yeah, let's bring that back. That was a good time. Okay, next suggestion comes in from James Sibella. Make DRS like an IndyCar push to pass. You can only use it a certain amount of times during a Grand Prix, makes it more strategic. I am of a positive opinion of this, a positive sentiment, but I think DRS needs to be made more powerful if they are going to have a select usage of them, or at least longer. So don't shorten the Miami DRS straight if you need a few laps of constant DRS in order to actually hit an opportunity to pass. It's not like DRS is a slam dunk every single race weekend we go to. Sometimes they get stuck in a DRS train and they can't even get past. Baku, for example. And if they only have 10 uses of it over the course of a whole race and they still can't get past, then it might actually have the opposite effect and ruin the racing. So I think if they are going to reduce the amount of DRS usage, it has to be more powerful so that, okay, they can get ahead, but then, the driver behind now has 10 uses. So it's going to be a bit of a swapperoo.
I think DRS is needed in Formula One. If I think about overtakes that have excited me, it's like Fernando Alonso diving up the inside of Hamilton at Bahrain because it wasn't a DRS. He could have waited for the next corner and got past easily, but where's the fun in that? So if you have a moment, whether it's DRS or a button or whatever, where it is strategic, I think that would make it so much more exciting. So it's not a case of like, oh, let's wait for the main straight and he's going to pass. We don't need activation zones and things. You can just use it for a certain amount of time during a Grand Prix. And the person in front isn't using it or might use it to counter. And then, they might run out of it. I think it's good. I really like this.
Unlike what I was saying, and the fact that there are specific DRS zones, is that you can
doesn't
use
need
it
to be
anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
Okay, so it's a certain amount of seconds, or would you say a usage button? So you can press it this many times.
Number of seconds. I think they did that. I want to say they did that in like Renault World Series or something, and it worked.
So the next suggestion is at Lysander CG. Proximity chat driver radio. Wow.
Drive to Survive, like, yes, please.
In an alternate reality where no consequences matter, this would be absolutely incredible. Can you imagine Yuki Tsunoda with proximity chat driver radio? This man would just be bleeping at everyone. He gets angry at a free practice one small amount of understeer from a car 3 seconds ahead of him. Imagine if he had full access to just chat to the drivers. It'd be unbelievable, but obviously completely and utterly ridiculous at the same time.
For comedy, yes. Like reality, no. But like it'd be amusing. Just imagine the absolute S-housery of someone like Fernando Alonso, like driving in front of him,
goes past Hamilton and then says bye bye.
Yeah, or even just like waits for the driver to get in the braking zone. It's like putting him off and stuff.
And the final suggestion comes in from at F1 Webbit. One shot lap in Q3, one car at a time, starting based on the reversed order of Q2. This would allow TV and fans to follow all the drivers, not only the main ones. Also, the risk of aborting a lap due to red flag would be eliminated. I need it. I need this. I think it is it makes so much sense. The most sense ever. I can't see any drawbacks whatsoever. Some people might go, yeah, but what if rain comes in? Tough. That's the beauty. We get a mixed up grid every so often. It'll be a rare occasion anyway where the end runners, the Verstappens, the Leclercs get so hindered by a small chance of rain or whatever. So you get to focus on every single driver. You get to watch 10th place Lando Norris put in a worldy lap in the McLaren, but no one ever gets to see it usually. But you get to see it now. And I think it has that element of one lap, championship on the line, 3 races to go, and you have to perform.
Did we not see the perfect example of it almost in Miami? Because Charles Leclerc going off meant that we had one lap to make it count. Verstappen messed up, started 9th. We had a mixed up grid. I think this would be really cool. I don't think we should have one lap for everything, like this person says, and like I think you agree as well. Just that Q3.
Yeah. I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you very soon for another bit of content. We are filming in the Ferrari drivers next week. Hopefully you managed to hear that, even though I mumbled it. Very exciting. So yes, can't wait. Look forward to it. Lots of content coming your way. Bye!
Bye!